Hi, friends. Today we're going to start on the chapter labeled H, and this is page 197 in my One and Only Ivan book. I lay out 16 pieces of poster board, 4 down, 4 across, a perfect square. What are you up to? Bob demands. I'm guessing it doesn't involve sleep. It has to do with the billboard. That sign's a monstrosity, particularly since I'm not featured. I grab my bucket of red paint. You're not on the billboard because you're not in the show, I point out. Technically, I don't even live here, Bob says with a sniff. Homeless by choice. I know. I'm just saying. I study the billboard. Then I make 2 fat lines, like broom handles. Another fat line connects them. Stand back. What do you think? What is it? I wait. Let me guess. A ladder? Not a ladder, I say. A letter. At least I think that's what they're called. I have to make 3 more. Bob cuddles up to not tag. Why? He asks, yawning. Because I'll have a word, a very important word. I dip my fingers into the paint. What word? Home. Bob closes his eyes. That's not so important, he says quietly. Nervous. All day long, I knuckle walk circles around my cage. I'm so nervous I can't nap. I can't eat. Well, not very much anyways. I'm ready to show Julia what I've made. It has to be Julia. She's an artist. Surely she'll look truly at my painting. She won't notice the smudges and tears. She won't care if the pieces don't fit quite together. She'll see past all of that. Surely Julia will see what I've imagined. I watch Ruby trudge sullenly through the 4 o'clock show, and I wonder, what will happen if I fail? What if I can't make Julia understand? Of course, I know the answer. Nothing. Nothing will happen. Ruby will remain the main attraction at Exit 8 Big Top Mall and Video Arcade, conveniently located off I-95, with shows at 2, 4, and 7, 365 days a year after year after year. Showing Julia. It's time to show my work. The mall is silent except for Thelma the macaw, who's practicing a new phrase. Uh-oh, uh-oh. Julia is finishing her homework. George is sweeping outside. Mac has gone home for the night. I grab Not Tag and carefully pull out the folded papers. So many paintings. Page after page, piece after piece of my giant puzzle. I pound on my glass. Julia glances over. Fingers trembling, I hold up one of my papers. It's a brown and green corner piece. Julia smiles. I display another picture, and then another, and then another, each one a tiny part of the whole. Julia looks confused. But what is it? She asks. She shrugs. Doesn't matter. It's just as pretty. It's pretty just as it is. Uh-oh, says Thelma. No, uh-oh, says Thelma, because she's the macaw. No, I think. No, it does matter. More paintings. George calls out to Julia. He's done for the night. Grab your backpack, he says, and hurry. It's late. Gotta go, Ivan, Julia says. Julia doesn't understand. I have to find the right piece. I dig through the pile. They're here somewhere. I know they are. Find one, another one. I try to hold up 4 of them against the glass. Bob, I say, help me, hurry. Bob grabs the paintings with his teeth and drags them to me. One by one, I shove the pictures through the window. They crumple and tear. There are too many pieces. My puzzle is too big. Careful, Ivan, Julia says. Those might be worth millions someday. You never know. She arranges the paintings into a neat stack. I suppose Mac's going to want to sell these in the gift shop. She still doesn't understand. I shove more out the hole and more, all of them, one after another. So Ivan's been painting, has he? George says as he pulls on his coat. A lot, Julia says with a laugh. A whole lot. You're not taking all those home, are you? George says. I mean, no offense to Ivan, but they're just blobs. Julia thumbs through the towering stack of paintings. Might not be blobs to Ivan. Let's leave those by the office, George suggests. Mac will want to try selling them. Although why anyone would pay $40 for finger paintings a 2-year-old can do, I don't know. I like Ivan's work, Julia says. He puts his feelings into them. He puts his hair into them, George says. Julia waves goodbye. Night, Ivan. Night, Bob. I press my nose against the glass and watch her walk away. All my work, all my planning, wasted. Look at Ruby sleeping soundly. Suddenly, I know she'll never leave the big top mall. She'll be here forever, just like Stella. I can't let Ruby be another one and only. Chest beating. Often when the visitors come to see me, they beat their hands against their puny chests, pretending to be me. They pound away, soundless as the wet wings of a new butterfly. Their chest beating of a mad gorilla is not something you ever want to hear, not even if you're wearing earplugs, not even if you're 3 miles away wearing earplugs. The real chest beating sends the whole jungle running as if the sky has broken open, as if men with their guns are near, angry. Thump. The sound, my sound, echoes through the mall. George and Julia spin around. Julia drops her backpack. George drops his keys. A pile of pictures go flying. Thump, 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 thump. I bounce off the walls and I screech and I bellow. I beat my chest and beat my chest. And Bob hides under Not Tad with his paws over his ears. I'm angry. At last, I have someone to protect. Puzzle pieces. After a while, I grow quiet. I sit. It's hard work being angry. Julia looks at me with wide, disbelieving eyes. I'm panting. I'm a little out of shape. What the heck was that? George demands. Something's really wrong, Julia says. I've never seen Ivan act this way. He seems to be calming down, thank goodness, George says. Julia shakes her head. He's still upset, Dad. Look at his eyes. My pictures are scattered all over the floor like huge autumn leaves. What a mess. Wish I hadn't bothered sweeping tonight. Do you think Ivan's okay? Probably just a temper tantrum, George says. He reaches under the chair to retrieve a brown and red picture. Can't say I blame the guy being stuck in that tiny cage all these years. Julia starts to answer, but then she freezes. She cocks her head. She stares at her feet where my pictures lie in disarray. Dad, come see this, she whispers. I'm sure he's another Rembrandt, George says. Let's pick these up and get going, Julia. I'm exhausted. Rembrandt is a famous painter. Dad, she says again, seriously, look at this. George follows her gaze. I see blobs, many blobs with the occasional swirl. Please, can we go home now? That's an H, Dad. Julia kneels down, straightening one picture. That's an H. And here she grabs more pictures. Put this one. I don't know, maybe that one. You have an E. George rubs his eyes. I hold my breath. Julia's running now. She picks up one picture and sets down another. It's like a puzzle, Dad. This is something. It's a word, maybe, and a picture of something. A giant picture. Jules, George says, this is crazy. But he's looking at the floor too, wandering from picture to picture, scratching his head. H, Julia says. E, O, ho? Julia chews her lower lip. H-E-O, and what looks like a lot like an I. H-E-O-I. I-E-O-H? Not the letter, an actual I. That's a foot, or maybe a tree, and a trunk. And Dad, I think that's a trunk. Julia runs to my window. Ivan, she whispers, what did you make? I stare back and cross my arms. This is taking much longer than I thought. Humans, sometimes they make chimps look smart. Finally, Julia and George take the pictures to the ring, where there's room to see them all. An hour passes as they try to assemble my puzzle. Ruby's awake, and she and Bob and I watch. Ivan, Ruby says, is that a picture of me? Yes, I said proudly. Where am I supposed to be? That's a zoo, Ruby. See the walls and the grass and the people looking at you? Ruby squints. Who are all those other elephants? You haven't met them, I say, yet. That's a very nice zoo, Ruby says with an approving nod. Bob nudges me with his cold nose. It is indeed. In the ring, Julia pumps her fist in the air. Yes, she cried. I told you, Dad. There it is. Home. 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 George gazes at the letter. He spins around to look at me. Maybe it's just a coincidence, Jules. Once in a trillion kind of thing. Like that old saying about the chimp and the typewriter. Give him long enough and he'll write a novel. I make grumbling noise, as if a chimp could write a letter, let alone a book. Then how do you explain the rest of it? Julia demands. The picture of Ruby in the zoo. How do you know it's a zoo? George asks. See the circle on the gate? There's a red giraffe in it. George squints and tilts his head. Are you sure that's a giraffe? I was thinking more along the lines of a deformed cat. It's the logo for the zoo, Dad. It's on all their signs. Explain that. George gives her a helpless smile. I can't begin to. I'm just saying there has to be a logical explanation. Look how big this is. Julia puts the last piece of Ruby's right ear into place. It's huge. It's definitely large. Julia watches me. She chews on her thumbnail. I can see the question in her eyes. She turns back the paintings and stares at them. Looking, truly looking. A slow smile dawns on Julia's face. Dad, she says, I have an idea, a big idea. Julia races around the edge of my painting, her arms spread wide. Billboard big. I'm not following you. I think this is meant to be on a billboard. That's what Ivan wants. George crosses his arms over his chest. What Ivan wants, he repeats slowly. And you know this because you two have been chatting? Because I'm an artist and he's an artist. Uh-huh, George says. Julia clasps her hands together. Come on, Dad, I'm begging you. George shakes his head. Nope, I'm not doing that. No billboard, no way. I'll get the ladder, Julia says. You get the glue. I know it's dark out, but the billboard's lit. Mac will fire me, Jules. Julia considers. But think of the publicity, Dad. Everyone would know about Ruby. You want me to put a sign that shows Ruby in a zoo with the word home on it in giant letters. Mac gestures towards my picture. A sign, incidentally, that happens to have been made by a gorilla. Exactly. And you want me to do it without Mac's permission? George asks. Exactly. No, George says. No way. Julia goes to the edge of the ring, careful to not step on any of my paintings. She picks up Mac's claw stick. She walks back and hands it to her father. George runs a finger along the blade. She's just a baby, Dad. Do you want to help her? But how would it help, Jules? Even if lots of people see Ivan's sign, it doesn't mean it's going to change. I'm not sure yet. I'm not exactly sure yet. Julia shakes her head. Maybe people will see the sign and they'll know this isn't where Ruby belongs. Maybe they'll want to help too. George sighs. He looks at Ruby. She waves her trunk. It's a matter of principle, Dad. Principal. L-E, George corrects. Dad, Julia says softly, what if Ruby ends up like Stella? George looks at Ruby, at Julia. He drops the claw stick. The ladder, he says quietly, is in the storage locker. And this is where we're going to stop at the next morning. Good luck.